Good morning, good afternoon, and konbanwa wherever you are in the world. I'm the idol to give you the wings to fly, Cyber Angel Rita Kamishiro of Lucid Multimedia at your service. And how is everyone doing today? Welcome in, welcome. Amazing timing. You were tired as heck today. You were about to nap. Apologies in advance for sleeping through the stream. No. This is the perfect time. This is a perfect time to be EP because, for those who are not aware, this is a Storytime hour. So as a reward from my Birthday Donothon, I owe you all a Storytime stream. And I got a couple of suggestions, but I decided upon one suggestion, which was to read the Xenoblade Chronicles X short stories, and they're official short stories. Although this is a fan translation, because it's only officially in Japanese. This is a fan translation by someone named Gesenko. So a huge shout out to them. I'll be reading a fan translation of theirs. And I didn't have too much time to go through and check and make sure that everything. I changed out a couple of species names, alien species names. I changed out some of the division names. But I might have missed a few. I only was able to go through them really quickly, so I might have to pause here and there to double check. But yeah. Hello, welcome. How is everyone? I'm doing, first of all, I am so excited. Well, second of all, I guess I already said first of all. Happy news is I finished all my exams, woohoo! The secondary news, which isn't so great, but I think, makes sense, is that I'm a little sleepy. Now that, the adrenaline of finals is over, I'm oh, thank goodness, I can rest and relax, and I think my body wants to rest and relax now. So, some of you all may be sleepy for this Storytime hour, but worry not, you are not alone. I, too, I'm feeling very relaxed. But I think it'll be fun. I think this will be a nice little story time for you to relax to, or maybe if you're getting some work done, or maybe if you need to do some chores, it'll be a fun little story time for you all as well. Congratulations and well done. Thank you. Congrats again on straight A's. Yes, thank you. I wasn't particularly worried about the exams, I don't think. I guess it's you never know. You can never be too 100% sure. You never know what will happen the day of. What if I just forget how music works? All of a sudden, you know what I mean? Sometimes your ears just don't work. So yeah, you never know. But yeah, everything went absolutely swimmingly. Yeah. So I get a week or so to relax, and then I'll have summer classes. But summer classes are not as stressful as regular classes. I think I'm taking less. Well, it's just less. Generally, summer classes are not as intense as semester classes, I would think. Yeah. You're also really tired. We can all be EP together. Yeah. Hopefully you'll enjoy this reading. This is one of the Xenoblade X short stories. I think there's two collections. Today I'll be reading Forging Blade. Apparently this short story is set right before the beginning of the game. So if there are some of you out there who haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles X, what are you doing? Yeah, just joking. If you want, you can check out the playthrough, or if you feel so inclined, you can check out the game yourself and support the official release. But maybe you're just here to enjoy the story. Who knows? Yeah. Good to see you too. Yeah. Hopefully you all enjoy this reading. I kind of browsed through them. Like I said, I was trying to replace some of the I think this translation had a lot of the Japanese names of things. What is it called? I don't remember the Japanese version of Blade. Because all I know it's builders for the English version is builders for a legacy something Earth. You know what I mean? But in the Japanese it's a little bit more logos, whatever. Not as it feels a little bit more nonsensical. But, depending on who you ask, they're like, oh, they should have kept it versus changing it. But I did change things to the localization, the English localization. So I didn't know that Harriers and other divisions were called something else in the Japanese. I thought it would just be like Haria, but no, it's like Avalanche, which I think is really cool. I think, and then Outfitters is like Arms. So I had to like go through like, what is Arms? Who is Arms? What are they referring to? And then I realized they were talking about divisions. Yeah, so the localization in English is Builders of a Legacy after the destruction of Earth. But the Japanese, I guess, version of Blade is very different. Yeah, it's Avalanche instead of Harrier. So, the thing that I thought was interesting is that Skells are called dolls. Yeah, that was an interesting one. I did not prepare the 24-hour happy people. I barely was able to prepare this one for today. Like I said, there might still be things that I haven't like gone in and changed. But yeah, let's jump in. I only have an hour until I have to go to my meeting. But I want to be able to finish all of this. It's only 5 parts. I hope I can read through as many of this as possible. And then if you're interested, I'd be more than happy to do another one if you'd like. The Japanese version of Blade is like beyond the logo, something Earth. Makes a little bit less sense, like grammatically, but it sounds cooler. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay, I want to water check. This is a lot of reading, and I had like a singing sort of thing today. So let's get this party started. So yeah, please relax and have a fun time. Okay. By the way, do you like the Blade Barracks music in the background? I just searched up a random picture. I just searched up Xenoblade Chronicles X, Blade Barracks, and then I put that in the background, and then I just chose the Barracks OST to play. But yeah, I can keep this on in the background, or we can like turn it off completely, because I know some of this like does get intense. So I don't know if the Barracks music will particularly fit, but you all seem to enjoy it, so I'll keep it on for now. All right. Oh gosh, water check again. I had to talk a lot today. This is Forging Blade, a Xenoblade Chronicles X short story. Part 1. Upon that nameless planet. The majority of the sapient races there had not yet come to understand the full extent of the universe. While they understood that the flat surface they stood upon was land, they did not comprehend that at that time, at the same time, they were standing upon a sphere known as a planet. Perhaps there were beings lurking about who understood such concepts as planets, but whether one or many, they had never shared their knowledge with the less advanced. Therefore, it was not yet planet Mira to these creatures. It was simply huge land that go on and on. It really does go on and on, muttered a walking potato. Well, it resembles the potatoes of this land, but it is no potato. It is a young boy of a race called the Napan, named Tatsu. Look who talking! Tatsu decided we go out this far! While it may look like a potato is responding, it too is no potato. Rather, it is a green-skinned Napan resembling a melon. Another young boy named Ron. Together, the two of them hail from the Napan of the Dodonga caravan, the trader Napan race, outside of one small case. What? Me trying to read this translation. Are nomads. Hey, the trader Napan race. Outside, okay, I see. For the most part, the Napan race is, are nomads, aside from one small case. Cool. Anyway, continuing on. Their caravans consist of anywhere from a handful to a hefty helping of families, and they spend their lives following one journey to the next. The things they sell are quite varied, ranging from animals to plants, even to handcraft goods. Their unique Napon items are also important products of theirs. If there is profit in trade, there is loss as well. They receive charity from the more gentle races due to their adorable appearance, while the less kindly races take to swindling them. Nevertheless, they are able to journey about as they please. But their journeys never end. They wander off on a whim, staying somewhere if they can turn a profit, or freeloading in the cities of other races. Among them are caravans headed for the supposed sacred land of Napon legend, who appear to be wandering aimlessly in search of it. The Dodonga caravan is a normal caravan. They have been that way from the first generation Dodonga all the way to whatever generation they're up to now, but their current leader is strangely reliable for a Napon. By traveling fertile lands with an abundance of plant life and relying on friendly races to exterminate any hostile monsters, the Dodonga caravan has persevered. However, even in such peaceful travels, there is an adventurous youth who say things like, "Can't stand being so bored." This curiosity-filled boy, Tatsu, inviting his close friend, Ron, set out on a scouting mission. Scouting is done to stock up on food and things to trade, as well as finding much-needed people to trade with. The young Napon are surely up to the task. Although, unlike the self-titled scouting master, Tatsu, Ron doesn't participate in such errands. "Ron's specialty be guarding house," he says, never venturing outside of the safety of his own tent. "If Ron keep that up, never become adult Napon. Tatsu helps show Ron how scouting done. Must turn down offer. As house guarder, Ron planned to give lifetime of service." Ron declined with these words as Tatsu tried to drag him outside. But his resistance was in vain and he came tumbling out of his own tent. Or rather, he was kicked out. "How long Ron planned to act like spoiled child relying on Mama Pon? She not feed Ron forever. Hurry and become adult and let Mama Pon rest." A sound argument. It embodied the sacred teachings passed down from the Hom-Hom of Napon legends. If man will not work, he shall not eat. "Guess it no use. At this rate, Ron be elected legendary hero pawn. Must avoid that," said Ron, driven out of his cozy tent, and he accepted Tatsu as a travel companion. Grudgingly, reluctantly, unwillingly, nevertheless, he took that first step. "Relax. If Ron leave everything to Tatsu, I'll be okay. Surely finish scouting mission and relieve Mama Pod. Yeah, Ron got it." Thus, the two young Napons set out to scout. But what they weren't aware of was that they also had taken their first steps into fate's unforgiving stomach. They were carefree lads at the start of their trip. They ate plants and bugs they found along the way, spitting out the bad-tasting ones and saving the sweet ones in their Napon packs. Whatever they didn't eat, they would bring back and use for trading. Ooh, so tasty! Tatsu and Ron were stuffed. They had made a great feast of the small bugs living in the forest. Bugs that will come to be called bloated geckos by a race with a penchant for naming everything they see, savoring the soft and flabby blubber that lay beneath their hard skin. However, the law of the land is survival of the fittest, and the world must adhere to the order of the food chain. If the Napon feast, so too can they be feasted upon. The two boys had lost their way chasing the geckos into the forest, and were now being eyed up by an enormous carnivorous creature. "Tatsu! They're looking right at us!" It was a creature that would later be called a tectinsula, which hides itself along the ground using the flowers that grow on its shell. It was thanks to that the Napon had only just realized how close they had come to it. This is, oh my gosh, fantasy alien race species names, oh my gosh. The Tectinsula rose, drooling at the sight of Tatsu and Ron. The look it gave them was the same look they had given the full-belly geckos. "No! Look away! It attack if it senses fear!" "Oh, okay!" Without breaking eye contact with the Tectinsula, they slowly stepped backwards. However, that was the shallow logic of the Nopon. They were nothing more than a potato and melon to the massive beast. Not caring whether they showed fear, the Tectinsula leapt at the two as they scattered, panicking. Ron not taste good. Monster have to eat one of us. Tatsu! Like Ron say, Tatsu incredibly juicy, delicate. Huh? Perhaps it was listening to their conversation, or perhaps it just preferred potatoes to melons. The Tectinsula chose to pursue Tatsu. Monster shouldn't believe everything Nopon say! Realizing the danger was gone, Ron stood rooted to the spot, and, taking the valuable lesson left behind by his friend to heart, muttered in the direction of the screaming. Tatsu, Ron never forget noble sacrifice! Take lesson Tatsu teach him, and never leave house again! Outside world scary! Thus, Ron left to return home. Although, being a Nopon, he did not have the slightest sense of direction, and after being chased around by the monster, finding his way back home would take an enormous effort. He wandered off in the opposite direction of the Dodonka caravan, and several days later, finally collapsed. Lucky for him, he was taken in by some kind aliens, and became their pet guard Nopon until the ends of his days. But that's another tale in and of itself. Why so persistent? Monster, give up already! Shouted Tatsu as he ran from the beast. But the Tectinsula, oh my gosh, say that 10 times fast, would not give up, no matter how far he fled. Tatsu understand! Unable to stop because monster captivated by Tatsu's charming body. Such lovely body has amazing balance between chub and elasticity. If cooked over fire, smell very aromatic. Tatsu drooling just thinking about it. Wait, why Tatsu drooling about eating self? Fantasizing while running is not recommended because you're not paying attention to the ground beneath you. At that moment, Tatsu's foot got caught in a metal object hidden within the bushes. Like a potato from a basket, Tatsu went rolling along. But this was fortunate for him, for just before he took his tumble, the Tectinsula's jaws were preparing to snap closed around him. Furthermore, in the instant after having failed to catch his prey, the Tectinsula was scorched from every direction by concentrated laser fire. The metal object Tatsu had tripped over was a trap that someone had set down. There were also 4 laser rifles set around the trap, which had roasted the Tectinsula alive. Woo! All finished! After devouring everything but the Tectinsula's shell, oh my gosh, Tatsu ate that whole thing! Tatsu sprawled out on the ground like a fluffy X. Although with his short limbs, he wasn't really X-shaped, but since this is a short story, you can just pretend he was. At any rate, Tatsu had eaten the entire monster, which was several times bigger than him. How he managed to fit everything into his tiny Nopon body is one of the biggest of the 99 mysteries of the Nopon. Somehow or another, Tatsu had survived the most historically dangerous thing a Nopon could ever experience. But in his frenzy to finish his meal, there was something he forgot. The trap that saved his life, and who had set it. This thing ate our catch! Foolish child! Upon hearing the voices, Tatsu snapped out of the post-meal coma he was enjoying. It seemed their translation device's ability was rather poor, spitting out raspy words. Upon rising, Tatsu was greeted with the sight of 2 aliens pointing rifles at him. Since they spoke words and held weapons, they were without a doubt intelligent life forms. No matter how you looked at them, they only appeared to be wild beasts standing on their hind legs. They are members of a race called the Prone, who had only shown up in these lands very recently. Tatsu had never seen nor heard of them before. You guys! What do you want with Tatsu? You! Steal prey from trap! So, take you instead! Said the Prone, as they grabbed at him. Tatsu took off in a hurry, becoming fast food once again. It was the Prone chasing him this time, rather than the Tectinsula. but they were all the same to him. The lesson to be learned here is, don't let your guard down here if you want to live for long. Unfortunately, for the Nopon, their tiny brains can't always keep that lesson inside. Alas, still Tatsu's destiny to be chased by beasts, hungering for a handsome body like this. If beasts want to cook Tatsu, let beautiful girls cook him instead. They treat Tatsu's body with care, thought Tatsu as he fled. Luckily for him, the prone were not particularly fleet of foot. The nimble Nopon are far better inside this complicated forest. Somehow managed to lose them. Free of his prone pursuers, Tatsu realized he had ended up near the Dodonga caravan's encampment. This place looks similar somehow. Or familiar somehow, rather. Walking through the forest, he recalled the features of the terrain. Sure enough, there was a cliff just ahead that the caravan could be seen from. Tatsu reached deep inside his shallow pool of memories for clues on where to go. Eventually, he remembered the clifftop view. However, all that awaited Tatsu over that horizon was the dawn of a cruel, new fate. As he drew closer to the cliff, he could see streaks of black smoke rising. And when he finally stood upon the edge of the cliff, the cruelly burned state of the camp entered his vision. All of the Dodonga caravan tents had been scorched and trampled, but Tatsu could not see any sign of his family, or any Nopon at all. No way! Had the Nopon of the Dodonga caravan all fled somewhere? Or were they kidnapped? Since he could not see any slain Nopon, he did not believe they were killed. At least, he hoped they weren't. Maybe they were sitting in the stomachs of those gun-toting prone. No, he couldn't think like that. Everyone, surely safe, Tatsu muttered to himself as the faces of his family and friends floated through his thoughts. Just then, something hard pressed against the back of his head. Turning, he saw the muzzle of a gun thrust toward him by the prone. The ferocious brute's eyes narrowed. Finally catch Furball! Had us running all over! Tatsu didn't have any stamina or willpower left to resist. The two prone tied him up and tossed him into a basket. They set out side by side, each holding one end of a pole on their shoulder, with a basket hung between them, holding their delicious trophy inside, of course. From beneath his circular glasses, tears began to flow. Now a prisoner, Tatsu wept. But his tears were not shed for his imminent devouring. Rather, they were shed at the thought that he would never ever be able to meet with a Nopon of his caravan again. Sooner or later, Tatsu was planning to leave the caravan behind. He fantasized about slaying a wicked god accompanied by sidekicks. But Tatsu not imagined he'd leave camp in picnic basket! Tatsu looked up at the sky from a crack in the basket. Even through his tear-filled eyes, he could make out the blue color of the sky that stretched on and on. Beyond it lay the vast vacuum of space, which was still unknown to the Nopon. A shooting star shot across that blue sky. Please, star, hear Tatsu's wish! Let there be pretty girl with these meanies, and let her cook Tatsu gently. Don't let Tatsu's beauty be tainted by gross creatures. Apologize for squirming. Absolutely won't wiggle inside tummies. Also wish... Tatsu's shooting star kept shooting. It did not vanish in an instant. It was not a tiny meteorite that fizzled out in the atmosphere. It was a large, man-made craft, breaking apart as it fell. Whoa! Tatsu forgot all about his wish and watched as the object fell beyond the mountains. That disc-shaped object. The fact that it was the residential sector of an interstellar immigration ship was far beyond the Nopon's comprehension. This shooting star brought visitors along with it. Visitors who would come to christen the huge land that go on and on. This planet, Mira. And Tatsu will learn of this visit in the near future. That's part 1! Yoo-hoo! 1 of 5. Wasn't that so funny? Oh my gosh, careful what you wish for, Tatsu. Yeah, literally. Yeah, that's 2 permission slips for Lynn to start cooking. Oh my gosh, what did you all think? Isn't that so silly? That was like 5 or 6 pages out of 40. Well, the second half still has like the Japanese translation with it because I like ran out of time to like delete the Japanese portions. I was like, it's kind of hard to read it quickly if I have to switch between like, it's like the Japanese, it's like the English translation and then the Japanese. English translation and the Japanese. So I tried taking out the originals, so I'm just working with the translation, but I didn't get to finish doing that, the last part. We'll see how far we can get today. Yeah. Maybe I'll post like the parts we don't get to, like on Patreon or something. I don't know. All right. You didn't know it was about Tatsu? I know! When I was like initially doing my like cleaning up of the transcript, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, Tatsu? Well, you'll be pleasantly surprised. There are more people that take over the POV, I guess you would say. I think it starts now. Since I'm reading, I'm not trying to do too many like impressions. I'm just gonna try to read it in a way that I feel like you can tell that the characters are changing. Okay, are we ready for part 2? It was amazing, I'm glad you think so. Hopefully you all are enjoying this as much as I am. Okay, water check. All right, this is part 2. Our beautiful blue birthplace, a sphere of water suspended in space. Earth. It was like a beacon of hope, shining in the abyss, or a helpful guidepost suspended in the darkness. Nothing would ever erase the Earth from our thoughts. When did I last see it with my own eyes? Was it while I was in geosynchronous orbit above the planet during the DM engine orientation exam, or during my observational visit to the lunar base? Or maybe it was... In any event, I had not seen it when the white whale set sail. That much I was certain of. Our gaze was locked ahead of us at that time, towards the great alien armies blocking our path, towards the unknown abyss glimpsed through their soldiers. That was all we saw as we departed. We had no time to glance back at our beautiful birthplace, and I will never see it again with my own eyes, because it was annihilated during that battle. Nagi Kentaro was dreaming. It was a dream of the home he lost 2 years prior. In a dream, memories are like writings in the sand. Upon waking, that sand is scattered in the wind, erasing all signs of it. Nagi awoke in darkness, and feeling as though he had just seen the earth vanish in the wind, shed tears of loss. We have lost it. The earth. And then he remembered. He was not waking from sleep. He had been knocked out from the impact and had just regained consciousness. He was Nagi Kentaro. At one time, he was a brigadier general for the Coalition. Now he is responsible for captaining the White Whale as part of the Earth-Life Colonization Project. The Earth-Life Colonization Project. It was a project that aimed to scatter the seeds of life across space so they might flower on other celestial bodies in preparation for the destruction of their home planet. It was thought up by humans, the dominant force on Earth, to prevent the complete annihilation of everything that once lived on it. The Coalition government had known of the impending destruction for the last 30 years, or rather, it was formed as a result of that realization. One day, the Earthlings became aware that we were not alone in space, that countless other races existed in its vast expanses. And at the same time, they became aware of the coming crisis. The multitude of races had divided themselves into 2 distinct factions based on their physical structures and were locked in an endless struggle. It was likely that their conflict would spread to Earth. Upon learning of this, the Earthlings began amassing the majority of their supplies in preparation, and the Coalition government was formed. Personnel, wealth, and resources were collected and divided between their plans for defense and survival.
Of course, there were many who refused to join under the umbrella of the coalition government. The whole world understood the gravity of the situation, so the few dissatisfied dissenters went ignored by the majority. Thus, the coalition government developed parallel programs that would serve as wings to guide them forward. One to repel the alien forces, and one to ensure their escape and survival. Among these were human-made bipedal mobile weapons, skells, a trump card developed to repel the alien armies using technology not of the Earth. They had no internal combustion systems of their own, relying instead on power transferred from a main generator. They were an all-purpose weapon miniaturized into a small frame, and in just under 10 years, a considerable number were manufactured. The Earth's defense forces were well prepared. Or they should have been. It seems we were overly optimistic, was Nagi's frank recollection. Mankind's fighting strength had made rapid improvements thanks to the development of the skells and the DM engine power source. But there was still nothing they could do. The two aliens clashed in the planet's vicinity, their strength vastly outmatching that of the Earthlings. A single ant could not protect its nest while a dragon and tiger fought overhead, even if the ant became dozens of times more powerful. All mankind could do was entrust their future to a handful of immigration ships, to escape, to survive, to flourish somewhere. Nagi and his crew turned their backs on the Earth and escaped, precisely because they carried those hopes. A flash behind them. They turned their eyes from the destruction of their home planet. And so, the white whale began its journey, captained by Nagi. But at the end of their 2-year journey, the aliens had finally caught up to them. One of the two factions had pursued them and attacked them with biological weapons. The bioweapons were fearsome, and the outer shell of the residential area. They phased through the hull and boarded the ship. Within each of them was an antimatter core, so they could not be disposed of carelessly while they were on board. Their destruction would pose a great danger to the white whale. A single young man had saved the ship from the predicament. His valiant efforts repelled the bioweapons, but he vanished along with his skell afterwards. However, that did not mean the white whale was safe. A strange planet had appeared before the ship, one that was not marked on the space chart they had acquired before departing Earth. Why had nobody noticed the planet before then? Was it because we were too busy dealing with the pursuit forces, or... The white whale's hull was seriously damaged, and they were unable to escape the planet's gravitational pull. Nagi, who had been issuing commands from the bridge, knew that an emergency landing was unavoidable, and did his best to minimize the damage to the ship during planetfall. Then, the crash came. And after that, nothing. He had a dream of his beloved Earth while unconscious. And then, he awoke.
Where? Hey, Nagi, you've come too.
Nagi heard a familiar voice respond. It was the white whale's chief engineer and his friend of several decades, Commander Vandam. Although they were no longer the same rank, their friendship had continued unaltered.
What's the situation, Vandam? Not that great, but I guess you could say we lucked out.
Vandam briefly explained what had happened. The white whale...
Sorry, I see someone in the chat go, Vandam! Real though. It's like you're watching like a sitcom and then you have like a fun little celebrity cameo and it's everyone's like, woo! That's Vandam over there. Water. I'm gonna water check and then we'll continue.
Vandam briefly explained what had happened. The white whale had fractured in the upper atmosphere and each piece of the ship crashed separately. Only the bridge and a few surrounding sections had crashed in their vicinity. None of the other pieces were anywhere in sight.
And what of the planet? Is it capable of sustaining life?
Vandam pointed to his right without a word. Nagi turned his head, at a loss for words. An enormous crack ran down the outer wall, through which the night sky could be seen.
So, we can breathe the air. That's not all. The temperature's around 20 C, the gravity is 0.94 G, and radiation levels are safe. It's habitable, without any kind of protection. How? That we'd end up on an uncharted planet by chance? If it wasn't chance, it was someone's plan. We should make sure to thank them, was what Fandom said.
Though it was unfortunate that the ship was in pieces and didn't survive the entire journey from Earth. It was nothing short of a miracle that its final stop was a place people could inhabit without the need of terraforming. Nagi thought it must have been the work of a higher power, either God or demon.
What about the rest of the bridge crew? Everyone's at work, scouting the surroundings, recovering the engine, gathering usable materials, stuff like that. There's a ton of things to do. One's still snoozing.
A young female operator was slumped over her console, nearby where Nagi lay. If he remembered right, she was Second Lieutenant May. I don't know who's saying this. I was almost in last place. I'm getting too old for this. You're still as young as ever. Oh, Nagi and then Vandam.
I was almost in last place. I'm getting too old for this. You're still as young as ever.
Vandam gave Nagi a hard slap on the back. It wasn't surprising for him to praise him. Nagi had remained on the bridge as it shook and entered the atmosphere, guiding the ship until the very end. While the rest of the crew had braced themselves for impact, he was still at the helm. It was no surprise that he would wake up late. Although the chief engineer had not braced himself for impact either, instead managing the auxiliary engine and broken DM engine during the crash, he had still woken up first. But his stubborn body was far from the norm, so it did not come as a surprise to anyone. Pause. I will say it's a little tough because, again, I'm reading a fan translation, so it's like not formatted. Some of the like English is a little like, I guess, more formal than you would expect. So I'm like trying to like manage that as I read on the fly. So apologies if I have to like pause and be like, is this a paragraph? Is this a sentence? Continuing on after I water check. I know it's fun hearing like how they ended up on Mira for sure, because you're kind of just plopped into the game, right? I'm glad you're enjoying this. I know there's something about this planet, right? Let's see, where am I? Oh, here we go. A thin voice informed them that the final crew member had awoken. May stood up and surveyed her surroundings. All of the bridge crew seemed to be unharmed. Captain! Chief Engineer! May stood at attention hastily and saluted. Nagi gave her a weak smile.
Don't fuss over formalities during a time like this. Yeah, really. We're all in this together, like Robinson Crusoe.
I actually had to search that up. It's apparently a book? Yes, understood. May raised her arm to salute once again, but stopped herself and simply bowed her head. She appeared to be a young, obedient girl. Right before Nagi smiled, he remembered the young man that had vanished into space. The young man who Nagi had watched grow up, who had saved the white whale. Oh my gosh, I'll mention.
Well, it might be early to say we're saved. We have to fend for ourselves from here on. I'm afraid I'll have to forget about him for now.
Nagi swiftly decided upon matters and began issuing orders. The crew members who had left to scout returned, one by one, to start carrying them out. They began fending for themselves just like that. Though unlike Robinson Crusoe, they did not have a homeland to return to across the sea. Nearly every section of the immigrant ship hulls had their own artificial gravity generators, thanks to the foresight of the designer. They were originally expecting the voyages to last for quite some time, so they took measures to make sure the crew's bodies did not adapt to a zero-gravity environment. The artificial gravity generators consumed large amounts of energy, so there was a fierce opposition against including them. But the ship's goals were to spread and maintain Earthkind, and continuing their lifestyle was important too. So the interiors of the residential sectors were fashioned like cities on Earth, and built so that they could settle upon the surface of a planet. Such accommodations were very taxing on the ship's resources, but with the new DM engine technology, they were able to manage. But more importantly, the gravity generators had absorbed the impact of the crash. The bridge had its own generator, so they were able to escape any serious damage. Other sections with their own generators had probably survived the crash as well.
First of all, we must locate the other pieces of the ship.
First, we'll locate the residential sector,
Then the DM engine sector. And third, the life hold.
Oh, well, it says here in the translation, the life.
but I'm assuming they mean the life hold. Again, some things in translation weren't like... Anyway, continuing on. The crew listened with bated breath as Nagi explained the orders to them. The residential sector was necessary for them to live on the planet's surface. Although the primary engine was seriously damaged, they still had the auxiliary engine. Shelter and energy would be indispensable if they wanted to live on as a civilization. And...
The life hold, huh? We need to find those pronto.
I forget, it's multiple. Venom folded his arms and muttered. The life hold were the immigrant ship's most important cargo. Most of the people who had departed Earth were asleep inside of them. My brother and parents are still asleep in them, so... May muttered anxiously. The only people awake aboard the White Whale were the crew members, military personnel, and the life hold system operators. It wasn't unusual for family members to be asleep in the life hold. However, assuming they withstood the crash, the systems would shut off if their energy reserves dried up. So they must do everything in their power to rescue the people sleeping in them before that happens. They weren't in any immediate danger, but they didn't have forever to wait around either.
All right.
I don't know who's saying this. Oh, this is Nagi.
All right. Then we'll start our search for the rest of the ship. First...
The rest of Nagi's words caught in his throat.
Hey, Nagi? Yes, I know.
Vandam had sensed it too. Only a small amount of starlight shone on this strange land at night, much like on Earth. Something was panting from darkness. Panting and stomping. If they weren't trying to hide their presence, they probably weren't intelligent. Most likely, they were native creatures. However, there was no difference between the danger of the aliens that wanted to exterminate humans and the prowling native creatures. They would have to protect themselves from this approaching threat and more on this unknown planet.
Everyone, are your sidearms ready?
The crew all nodded at Nagi's words.
All right, then we'll take them from here. We'd be at a disadvantage outside of the shelter.
The approaching creatures were all likely nocturnal. The crew would have no chance of surviving if they were disorganized. Nagi spoke in as calm a voice as he could to prevent them from panicking.
All hands, form a circle with your backs to the center. Focus your fire on the enemy in front of you, and trust your back and sides to the rest of the circle. Here they come!
Human-sized figures jumped into the multiple fissures in the bridge's outer wall. Creatures that would later be called Skirpo. They're docile while hanging from trees during the day, but at night, they become ferocious. If they had scales, there would be nothing to fear from the creatures. The bridge is only equipped with small caliber sidearms. I don't know if I have the translation. I'm just gonna read it from the translation. Battle assaults and attack assaults? I'm assuming they mean like assault rifles, but I didn't have time to search it up. If someone wants to search up the English localization version of those, that'd be great. It was assumed that they would only need weapons to suppress mutinies on a spaceship's bridge or fight hand-to-hand, so their lack of equipment was understandable. It would be a serious problem to have high-powered weapons around, as they might compromise the integrity of the hull. But right now, they were fighting without any concern over the ship's integrity. Nevertheless, they put up a brave resistance. Nagi's directions were precise, and they managed a successful counterattack. The younger crew put their trust in Vandam, whose imposing figure held a strike assault towards the giant crack in the wall. Despite being the chief engineer, he had the dignity of a veteran soldier, and shot down another unknown creature with each pull of his trigger.
It seems like we've held out.
To judge Nagi's evaluation would be unfair. He was unprepared. There was too much they didn't know regarding the planet and the creatures that inhabited it. All sorts of genetic abnormalities occurred here. There were even individual creatures whose strength and intelligence, and at times even body size, transcended that of similar species. At this time, one such transcendental creature, Tyrant, appeared directly outside of the bulkheads of the bridge of the White Whale. An enormous, far too enormous, native creature. Nagi and the crew did not panic when it appeared through the gap in the wall. It is said that when faced with an incomprehensible sight, the brains of men become unable to process things properly. Everyone watched the gigantic creature in awe, their bodies too shocked to feel fear. Perhaps it appeared to be a messenger of the gods to them.
They did not move at all as the gigantic creature raised what appeared to be its foreleg and swung downwards.
And that's part 2. Wait, I didn't realize how much these were gonna. I think I only have time for one more. I have a meeting in 15 minutes. No! Oh my gosh. Yeah, so fun fact, tyrants, battle assaults are called battle arts. Okay, I'll put that down. I'll write that down. We said battle assaults are battle arts. Okay, I'll replace that. I actually might record these and post them on Patreon if you guys are interested. It would be a shame to have this going. You can read these online, actually. They are available online. Hopefully, you all are interested. Oh, the other phrase was attack assault. It was battle assaults and attack assaults. Yeah. Some details sound like they've been retconned, but still great stuff. True. Also, I learned that tyrants are called overed. Obado in Japanese, which I think is really fun. I forgot what Scarpo was in the Japanese. I had to translate that. Okay. Part 3. This will be the last one for today, because I have a meeting. If you want another, story time, let me know. I can continue this another time, or I can just record them and post them. Continuing on. They're pretty easy to find. You just search up Xenoblade Chronicles X short stories. Yeah. Part 3. The tyrant's strike carved an even greater scar across the bulkhead. The horrible screech of the twisting steel brought Nagi and the crew back to their senses. The tyrant was forcing its way in through the enlarged fissure right before their eyes.
The head! Aim for the head! Concentrate fire and take it down!
Vandam roared as he opened fire at the gigantic creature's cranium with his strike assault.
What is strike assault? Anyone want to search that up?
His shots marking the target for the rest of the crew. Without stopping to repeat him, Nagi took aim at the same spot and fired as well. Everyone else followed suit. The tyrant appeared to flinch, with 10 odd people focusing their fire on it. But it was only for an instant. The enormous monster shook its head as if annoyed and forced the rest of its body inside the bridge.
Evacuate! Abandon the bridge! Darn it, there's nothing we can do!
Vandam agreed with Nagi. With the bridge's structural integrity compromised by the tyrant, it was in danger of collapsing at any moment. However, since it had just forced its way inside, it would be slow to follow them. The bridge crew took off in the opposite direction with Vandam leading, and Nagi bringing up the rear. As he stepped outside, Nagi finally witnessed it for himself. The mysterious land they had reached at the end of their 2-year journey. It would be impossible for their shattered ship to take off ever again. Everyone would have to live on this land now, unless they were somehow able to build another spaceship. But such a task would take an enormous amount of time and effort. The savage land stretched far into the pitch black of night. Even the soil beneath their feet felt somehow different from the Earth's. Beyond the overgrowth of unfamiliar plants were cliffs that jutted into the air like the branches of various trees. They seemed to defy the very laws of physics, but perhaps this planet follows its own laws. Further above, suspended in the air beyond a thick layer of clouds, was a massive natural satellite. It seemed to be dozens of times larger than the Earth's moon based on its apparent diameter.
Well, I should stop comparing everything I see to the Earth. There's no point in doing that now.
Nagi accepted the futility of trying to compare this new world to his old. What was important now was focusing on what lies ahead, ascertaining what would be able to help them survive, and what wouldn't. And an obvious threat would be upon them soon.
Bah! None of you are getting enough exercise! If we live through this, you're all gonna give me 100 million push-ups!
Vandam forcefully lifted the crew members that had fallen to their feet. The tyrant or push-ups? Which did they fear more? They kept moving forward frantically as they were lifted to their feet. The thunderous sound of the tyrant trampling the bridge could be heard behind them. That was their workplace, their home, the place they had spent the last 2 years after leaving the Earth behind. They couldn't stand listening to it being destroyed.
There was so much data and equipment we could have salvaged in there.
Everything they left held such fondness and memories too. All of it now being wrecked by the tyrant. Nagi ground his teeth in frustration. The lives of each of the crew members here and now were more important than anything they'd left behind. He had to worry about their survival first. Who's chief engineer? Oh, May.
Chief Engineer, I leave everyone in your hands.
No. Chief Engineer is Vandam, sorry. Wait, then who is May? Anyway,
Hey, Nagi!
leaving the path ahead to Vandam, Nagi stopped behind the group. He turned back towards the tyrant and raised his attack assault. Which arts are those again? Let's see.
Tyrant! It may be impossible for a newcomer to show up unexpected like this, but we must survive here too. I'll show you just how determined we are.
It did not seem to understand his words. In fact, it didn't seem to acknowledge his existence in any way. Nagi was simply prey standing in the tyrant's way. But it did stop moving momentarily to look down at him. That alone was enough. Nagi took careful aim as it faced him and shot at the tyrant's eyes. Although its eyelids closed just before the shot hit, the high-speed armor-piercing bullet penetrated straight through. I actually don't know what this tyrant specifically is supposed to sound like, so there you go. That's my made-up noise. Oh, it's a howl. Sorry, that was more like a screech. The tyrant let out a howl the likes of which humans could not comprehend. Maybe it was a scream or some kind of furious roar. Either way, the attention was now focused solely on Nagi.
That's right. Focus on me. My life is a small price to pay for the safety of everyone else.
Nagi readied his attack assault for a shot at its remaining eye, but his plan was overly optimistic. Instead of trying to approach him, the tyrant flung a nearby piece of metal in his direction. It may have been tiny compared to the tyrant, but it was a sheet of the white whale's massive bulkheads. The large object struck the ground, sending fragments of rocks flying towards Nagi. The tyrant approached slowly as he gathered himself after the blow. It seemed to be moving cautiously, but the attack assault was no longer in Nagi's hands. The impact of the rocks had snapped the rifle in two. He no longer had any means to fight back.
Oh well. That should have bought them enough time to escape. The rest is up to you, Chief Engineer.
Though he accepted his defeat, he did not close his eyes. He steeled his will and faced the creature bearing down on him to the very end. Nagi did not consider the tyrant to be his enemy. They just happened to meet upon this planet, and their wills to live clashed. He didn't bear any hatred or ill will towards it. He simply waited for the final moment to come. However, destinies can change in an instant. A barrage of bullets erupted from the tyrant's right arm. Riddled with heavy machine gun fire across half of its body, it collapsed in place. The scent of gunpowder flooded Nagi's nostrils, along with an unfamiliar stench. That must be the smell of the blood of this planet's creatures. It seemed to be composed of something other than hemoglobin. Me when I know the scent of hemoglobin. Sorry. Wandered Nagi calmly. I almost said clamly. He's just a clam. Wandered Nagi calmly, his life having been imperiled until just a moment ago. His thoughts were pulled back into reality by the sound of steel footsteps. The frames that had saved his life. 2 Earth-made scales shone vividly in the dark of night. They were both all-purpose crafts called AD-0130 Formula ST. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Captain! Brigadier General Nagi!
The voice of the pilot of the AD-0130 in front echoed through its external speaker system. It was a voice Nagi instantly recognized.
Irina.
First, wait, I didn't know. Wait, what is it? How do you pronounce Irina's last name? Irina Akulova? Akulova?
Irina. First Lieutenant Irina Akulova!
Sorry, I said I only know her as Irina. Vandam and the bridge crew returned afterwards to confirm Nagi was safe. First Lieutenant Irina and her subordinate, Second Lieutenant Gwen, knew all of the members of the crew. They all greeted each other warmly, glad to be reunited.
At any rate, you came in just at the nick of time.
Oh,
My frame's gun cam caught a shot of the bridge crashing, so we analyzed the image to figure out its trajectory and came rushing over,
Gwen responded.
Oh, sure, it was all thanks to you. Except it wasn't. It was your frame that did all the work.
What? Don't be so mean, First Lieutenant! Irina and Gwen were more than just fellow officers. They had known each other since before they even enlisted. Their conversation felt like one between 2 siblings.
So, you guys know what happened to the residential sector?
Their faces stiffened at Vandam's words. Before the hull of the white whale broke apart,
Their Skell platoon had been fighting off the bioweapons that had invaded the area. It's intact, but... Arena began explaining.
The residential sector's artificial gravity generators allowed it to land on the surface safely, much like the bridge had. Of course, it had been designed to land on the surface of a suitable planet, so it had a high chance of surviving the impact anyway. But there was a major problem. The DM engine that was supplying energy to the entire sector was seriously damaged.
So what happened to it? It's maintaining essential functions using the reserve power, but it's unable to deploy the outer shield. We don't know how long the reserve power will hold for. And what's worse, the native creatures keep attacking. Our Skell squads have had their hands full dealing with them.
Nagi sank into silence. While the safe landing was good news, the situation was not looking good. Vandam shouted at them in Nagi's stead.
If things are that bad, what do you think you two are doing? Why'd you come save us?
Who is this? I'm gonna say it's Arena.
I'm prepared to accept all punishment, Chief Engineer. However, what we need now is a leader, not one or two Skells. We won't last long without anyone in command. That's why we made our way through the swarm of monsters. If we found the bridge, surely the captain would... We'd find the Brigadier General and...
Arena and Gwyn's eyes were glued to Nagi. The two of them were still so young, yet they'd fought off the aliens 2 years ago and survived the assault by the pursuit forces. They were excellent soldiers. The situation was dire enough that even they were anxious about it.
If only Elma were here.
Aw. His thoughts drifted to the hero who disappeared after fighting off the bioweapons, and the subordinate who mobilized with him. Colonel Elma was like Nagi's right-hand man, and Arena and Gwyn trusted her immensely. If she were around to guide the residential sector, they wouldn't have anything to worry about. But the reality was, she was missing. They had lost a lot of good people in the battle for Earth 2 years ago, in the recent crash landing. Only the people left here now could overcome the struggle.
All right, understood.
I'll return. Wait, who is this? I think this is Nagi.
All right, understood. I'll return to the residential sector with the two of you. Chief Engineer, gather up the crew and join us later. Got it. We definitely couldn't carry everyone aboard just 2 Skells.
Vandam nodded in agreement. Okay, I have a little bit left. And then I have to go. I have to skedaddle. Let me let my meeting folks know. 1 second. I want to finish this. Gonna finish reading this paragraph. Okay, here we go. Oh gosh, where am I? Thus, Nagi set out for the residential sector. It was not a paragraph, it's a page. Thus, Nagi set out for the residential sector with the 2 pilots. Most Skells were originally designed as single-seat crafts and were unable to accommodate more than 1 person. He couldn't ride along in the cockpit, so he had to hold on to the shoulder armor of Gwyn's AD-0130. I hope I'm saying that right. It's Akulov? Okay. Arena led the way and kept watch, while Gwyn followed carefully.
It's all right if you pick up the pace, Second Lieutenant. But... Gwyn, do as he says. Hurry up. All right.
They both sped up their advance. If their Skells were capable of atmospheric flight, they'd be able to travel much more quickly. But they had just been fighting off the bioweapons and were only equipped to fight in space. Their only means of transportation were their 2 legs. So naturally, a person holding onto the outer frame would feel tremendous vibrations as they moved. Even inexperienced pilots found it difficult to ride in the cockpit for long, despite being equipped with shock absorbers. However, Nagi withstood the harsh conditions. What kind of crisis was the residential sector facing at that very moment? If he had to endure it, he would. Arena understood the urgency of the situation and hurried Gwyn onwards. With the intense impacts, Nagi felt a pain in his left shoulder. No, it must have been his imagination. That was an old war wound. It shouldn't be bothering him again. If only they were around. Nagi recalled the face of an old friend, an engineer that had pioneered development for a vital part of the colonization project. Without them, the project would have failed. They were not aboard any immigrant ship. Their life passed before the project even started, having succumbed to illness.
Maybe they were fortunate. They didn't have to watch as the Earth was annihilated.
Nagi shook his head at thought. No, that couldn't be. They were well aware of the chance the Earth had of surviving. That's why they kept researching methods to preserve the life forms of the planet, placing their last shreds of health at risk. Nagi and everyone else aboard the White Whale had a job to do. He couldn't waste time envying the dead. They had to gather everything that remained, somewhere free of disaster, to carry life, history, culture, and evidence of all of the things that came to be on the planet called Earth into the future.
I can bear this vibration if I focus on our mission.
Nagi muttered, then frowned. He had bitten his tongue.
Captain Nagi, do you see that ahead of us?
Nagi looked ahead, following Gwyn's voice. It was still dark, so several lights could be seen in the distance. No, those were fires. The White Whale's residential sector was ablaze.
Is that a battle? Yes, the native creatures broke in and started going crazy. I'll let you down so I can rejoin the fight.
Let me see.
Don't be stupid. You'd be losing a soldier. Take me to the armory or Skelehanger, anywhere I can find something to fight with.
But Nagi's desire to fight went unfulfilled. The residential sector did have a Skell maintenance area, but all available frames had mobilized. There were only small caliber firearms remaining. Nagi accepted that he would be unable to participate and focused his efforts on commanding the battle.
There's no one left behind in the residential area. Good. Abandon the defenses there. Focus on protecting the industrial area's facilities. I want Lao Skell Squad over here, there too.
Over here, there. Me when I can't read fast enough. The situation had completely turned around thanks to Nagi's appearance. There were mainly operators from the White Whale there at first, and they were highly trained professionals, so their difficulties weren't due to any lack of skill. It was the chaos and lack of command that caused them to panic. Nagi ordered them to abandon everything in the residential sector first. He ordered the civilians to gather in a sturdy building in the industrial area, and they fortified their defenses around that. They kept the monsters at bay with the strategic placement of their limited Skell squads, like those led by Arena, Lau, and Doug. Finally, dawn broke. The native creatures were likely nocturnal and left the city as the morning sun vanquished the horrible night. They might resume their attack when night falls, but they would return to their nests until then. The light of the morning was an ally to mankind. In the afternoon, they would prepare their defenses and investigate the surrounding areas, so they could mount a more successful defense the following night. Nagi gave his orders to the nearby secretaries, starting with the creation of a name registry. He would have to confirm how many survivors had gathered there first. Then, he would designate roles for everyone, establish an organization, and then, it hit him.
Say, if I remember correctly, this residential sector was modeled after some city.
The secretary nodded at Nagi's words. The White Whale's residential sector was built using a certain city as reference. The roadways weren't particularly similar, but it really did have the memorable landmarks and atmosphere of it.
All right. This is no longer a residential sector. This is our city. And a city must have a name.
The secretary, military personnel, ship crew, all of them watched Nagi intently. Arena and Gwyn were there too. Nagi turned to them and made his declaration.
This is New Los Angeles. From here on, we begin the revival of NLA.
And that's the end of part 3. I actually have to skedaddle, like right now. But thank you all so much for listening. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments. And if you want to hear more of the Xenoblade Chronicles X short stories. But thank you all so much for joining me for this Storytime hour. And I'll see you all on Saturday evening for the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed finale. And I'll see you when I see you. As always, I'm the idol to give you the wings to fly. Cyber Angel, the Kamishiro at your service. Bye!